At the dawn of the 20th century, humanity was sprinting towards a brick wall. Global famine was a mathematical certainty. For decades, the only way to grow enough food to keep the world fed was fertilizer made from guano, the nitrogen-rich waste left behind by millions of birds on remote islands off the coast of Peru. Thousands of men died in the scorching sun, shoveling bird filth onto ships so that Europe could grow enough wheat to survive. But unfortunately, by the start of the 1900s, the guano was nearly gone. The smartest minds on Earth predicted that by 1930, hundreds of millions of people would starve to death in what would be the greatest famine in human history. A man named Fritz Haber was able to stop that from happening. But he didn't do it by finding new islands. He did something much more unexpected. He figured out how to turn the air we breathe into fertilizer. Because of him, famine was avoided and the Earth's population grew from 1.6 billion at the time to 8.1 billion today. He is quite literally the man who saved the world. But you probably weren't taught about him in school. There's a reason his name is used with a mix of awe and absolute horror. It's because the same man that saved the world also made it choke. The same mind that conquered hunger went on to invent one of the world's most terrifying weapons of war. Fritz Haber is the only person in history to win a Nobel Prize while also being hunted for war crimes. This is the story of a chemist, a man who mastered the atmosphere, saved the human race, and then gave us the tools to destroy ourselves. By 1900, the nitrogen crisis wasn't just a scientific problem, it was a ticking time bomb. Although the air around us is 78% nitrogen, it's essentially useless to plants. It's locked in a chemical triple bond so strong that only lightning bolts and specialized bacteria can break it. Fritz Haber didn't have lightning, but he did have an ego and a drive that could move mountains. Working in his lab, a high-pressure environment that looked more like a steampunk nightmare than a modern facility, Haber pushed the limits of physics. He was hunting for a catalyst, a skeleton key that could unlock the atmosphere. He needed temperatures hotter than an oven and pressures higher than at the bottom of the ocean. Miraculously, in 1909, while working tirelessly in his lab, a drop of clear liquid began to drip from a tiny tube. It was ammonia. He had done it. He had turned the very air we breathe into fertilizer. It was the greatest scientific achievement in the history of our species. With that single drop of ammonia, Haber invented the process that would save most of the human race. It meant the Earth could now feed billions of people, not just millions. Haber became the king of chemistry, and the German government started pouring money into his lab. He was a celebrity, a patriot. He was a hero. But there was a catch. Ammonia isn't just the secret to life. It's also a raw material for death. A few years later, and World War I is well underway. And at this point in the war, Germany was surrounded. The British Navy had cut off the supply of saltpeter from Chile, a vital ingredient for making gunpowder. Without those nitrates, Germany would run out of gunpowder within 6 months and have no choice but to surrender. But Haber was going to do everything in his power to prevent that from happening. He pivoted his massive ammonia factories from making fertilizer to making explosives. He gave the German war machine an infinite supply of the nitrates needed to make gunpowder for a never-ending supply of bombs and bullets. This move single-handedly extended the most brutal war in history by several years. But for Haber, bombs and bullets weren't enough. He wanted to break the stalemate of the trenches. He wanted a weapon that could kill men when bullets couldn't hit them. He turned his genius towards toxic gas. Haber didn't just invent chemical warfare. He obsessed over it. In April of 1915, he personally oversaw the placement of thousands of canisters of chlorine gas on the front lines in Belgium. His fellow scientists were horrified by what he was doing. His own wife, Clara, the first German woman to earn a PhD in chemistry, begged him to stop. She called his work a perversion of science. Haber's response to her was, quote, "During peace, a scientist belongs to the world, but during war, he belongs to his country." It was April 22, 1915, a quiet afternoon on the front lines in Ypres, Belgium. Peeking out of the trenches, the French and Algerian soldiers saw something strange. A shimmering, sickly yellow-green cloud rolling toward them across no man's land. At first, they think it's a smokescreen. Hunkered down in their trenches, they wait for the German soldiers to appear out of the eerie fog. The cloud, carried by the breeze, finally reaches them, and absolute horror ensues. Chlorine gas reacts with the moisture in human lungs. It creates hydrochloric acid. Within seconds, soldiers all along the front lines began to literally dissolve from the inside. Thousands died in a blind, excruciating pain. Desperate, choking screams could be heard until the victims' lungs painfully dissolved and death finally took them. But Haber didn't watch with horror. He stood with a stopwatch in one hand and a pen in the other, taking notes, observing, documenting every detail in an effort to improve his invention where necessary. He was promoted to captain that night and went home to Berlin for a celebratory dinner as a hero of the Reich. That night, with her husband's service revolver in hand, his wife Clara left the celebration and walked out into the garden. Having herself earned a PhD in chemistry, she knew the exact torture the men killed by her husband's invention experienced. That night in the garden, with use of his own service revolver, Haber's wife took her own life. She was unable to live with the horror of what he had done and the blood now on his hands. Haber's obsession didn't allow him to mourn for long. The next morning, he was on a train to the Eastern Front to gas the Russians. The war still ended in a German defeat, and in 1918, Haber was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for developing the process to extract fertilizer from the air. It remains the most controversial Nobel Prize award in history. Half the scientific community boycotted the ceremony. The Nobel Committee awarded the man who fed the world, but the world only saw the atrocities of his chemical weapons. Haber stood there clutching his medal, a man who had saved the world, but had lost his soul. But history wasn't done with Haber yet. In the 1920s, Haber's Institute developed a powerful pesticide to kill insects in grain silos. It was also used to kill lice, which was crucial in controlling the spread of typhus. The pesticide was a cyanide-based gas called Zyklon A. In the 1930s, the Nazis were rising to power in Germany, and Haber, the man who had sacrificed his marriage, his reputation, and his ethics for his country, discovered that Germany didn't want him anymore. Haber had converted to Christianity back in the early 1900s in order to help advance his career, but he was born Jewish, and despite all that he had done for Germany, the Nazis stripped him of his titles and chased him out of the country. He first fled to England, working briefly at the University of Cambridge, and then traveled through Europe en route to Palestine. But while in transit, Haber died a broken man, alone in a hotel room in Basel, Switzerland on January 29, 1934, from a fatal heart attack at the age of 65. But Haber's invention lived on. The Nazis took his pesticide, Zyklon A, and removed the warning scent that made it smell like fruit, and gave it a new name, Zyklon B. A few years after Haber's death, that very gas, developed in his own labs, was used in the gas chambers of the Holocaust. It killed Haber's own nieces, his nephews, and his friends, along with millions of others the Nazis deemed inferior or unworthy. Look around you. Every supermarket, every skyscraper, every city of millions is only possible because of that drop of ammonia in Haber's lab back in 1909. Without it, billions of us wouldn't be alive today. But every time we talk about chemical weapons, every time we see the horror of warfare, we see Haber's shadow. Fritz Haber wanted to be a hero, but he forgot that science doesn't have a moral compass. It only has a direction. After pulling fertilizer from the air, he pulled poison from the shadows. Haber is the ultimate reminder that the same fire that cooks your food can also burn down your house. Haber's legacy is one of duality, a hero and a villain. The story of Fritz Haber isn't just a dry chapter in a history book. It is a mirror held up to our own modern ambition. We live in an era where our scientific reach, from artificial intelligence to genetic engineering, is once again outpacing our moral grasp. Haber's life poses a haunting question to every one of us. Is a breakthrough truly progress if it costs us our humanity? We cannot simply harvest the fruit and ignore the poison. We have a responsibility to be more than just clever. We must be wise. As you go about your day, fueled by the very nitrogen Haber pulled from the sky, remember that every great power requires a conscience to steer it. Don't just be a master of your craft, be a guardian of its impact. We must choose if we will build a future that feeds the world or one that burns it down. And for humanity's sake, we have to choose wisely. I'd like to give a huge thank you to my subscribers for all their continued support, and thank all of you for being here watching. That being said, if you liked the video, please press the like button. It helps a lot. And if you haven't already, subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. And I'll see y'all next time. Thanks again for watching.